Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere a little grim. But don't worry, you're already doomed. The heat greets you first. Not a gentle warmth, not a slow simmering sunset. No, this is an air-thick, onion-steamed inferno that hits your lungs, like a cumin-scented wall. You haven't even crossed the full threshold of the Mughal palace kitchen, and already your tunic is soaked. Your hair clings to your neck like wet parchment, and there's a vague, humming panic in your chest like, you've wandered into the belly of some fire-breathing beast. Because you have. Welcome to the Bawarchi Khana, the royal kitchen of the Mughal Empire, where over 100 cooks, boys, guards, grinders, butchers, fire stokers, and spice whisperers work from sunrise until, well, the next sunrise, feeding. An emperor, his court, his wives, his cousins, and at least a dozen hungry elephants. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're watching this from a city far from Agra, comment below with your location and local time. That way, I'll know where the other kitchen survivors are hiding. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive not as a guest, not even as a servant really, but as a confused addition to the system. A new recruit in this engine of constant hunger. There is no real door, no real welcome. You're ushered in by a man with no shirt, glistening skin, and zero interest in explaining anything. He points vaguely toward the smoke and disappears. Instantly the sounds swallow you. Metal against stone, water boiling somewhere in bulk. A rhythmic pounding, someone grinding turmeric root, probably with the same urgency and technique they'd use to trap a snake. A woman walks by with a basket of lemons balanced on her head. A teenage boy trails behind her with a large sack of what you're told is asafoetida, which smells like roasted socks and is somehow considered essential. The space is vast, but never empty. Enormous stone hearths line the perimeter, each with a team hunched over it like monks praying to the flame. Giant iron pots, blackened from years of fire, sit precariously atop glowing coals. There are barrels taller than you filled with rice, ghee, lentils, pickles and oil, and wheat flour so fine it floats through the air like snow. You cough. No one notices. Remember that fan you turned on earlier? Here, the only wind is from the flapping of robes, or from the enormous palm leaf fans waved by sweaty young boys in shifts that seem to last forever. The temperature might be 110 degrees, but who's counting? You probably should, since your sandals are already squishing from the sweat pooling at your heels. A senior cook appears in front of you. You can tell he's important because his turban is stiff with embroidery, and his mustache curves upward like a question mark. His eyes scan you. His voice cuts through the kitchen buzz like a scimitar through butter. You're late. Late for what? You aren't sure, but you're immediately handed a dull-looking knife and pointed toward a crate of onions that looks like it contains the sum total of Rajasthan's harvest. You hesitate. The cook raises one eyebrow, and thus begins your first and most immediate trial. You are now an onion boy. You settle on the cool floor, cool by comparison only, and begin peeling. Your fingers fumble, your palms sweat. You slice, slowly, painfully, into the white flesh. The sting hits your eyes instantly, not gently, not gradually. This is assault by vapor. You blink. You weep. You wonder if you'll ever see again. Someone throws you a cloth. You press it to your face and keep going. Meanwhile, your phone is dead. But so are your neighbors. A younger cook leans over and mutters, "First day, huh?" He's got flour up his nose and an unlit clove tucked behind his ear. He tells you his name is Yusuf, and that he started as onion boy too. Everyone does, except the emperor's nephew, who started as spice assistant and never once peeled a single clove of garlic. But don't worry, Yusuf adds with a grin. You only have to chop onions until you lose your sense of smell. After that, they move you up. You try to laugh, but your throat burns. As the day spirals forward, time becomes untrustworthy. There's no window, no sunbeam to follow. Just the rotating priorities of the kitchen. First breakfast prep for the emperor, then for the princes. Then for the generals, the viziers, the wives, the musicians, the astrologers, and then for a series of minor nobles you swear didn't exist this morning. Every time you look up, a new crisis is unfolding. The ghee pot is bubbling over. The milk curdling is suspiciously aggressive. A young servant accidentally dropped a copper spoon into the almond stew, and now there's a philosophical debate over whether it's blessed or cursed. Historians still argue whether Mughal cuisine was a reflection of divine order or a chaotic balancing act. From your vantage point, it's the latter. Lunch arrives not for you, but for those higher up in the edible chain. You are handed something, vaguely bread-shaped, vaguely warm. It smells faintly of ash and cumin. You chew it slowly, not because it's delicious, but because if you finish it too quickly, the hunger returns. Hunger in the Mughal kitchen isn't ironic. It's just inconveniently timed. You are surrounded by food, but like a fish in salt water, you can't drink it. Still, you watch. You learn. Every moment is a culinary lesson in extremity. A vat of rice is dyed with saffron so potent it looks radioactive. A team of 4 works on one stew. One stirs. One adds rose water. One adjusts the fire. The 4th chants something about balance. You ask what kind of balance, and someone replies, "Of the humors." You nod because you absolutely don't know what that means. A side debate breaks out near the roasting spit. Someone thinks goose liver is too foreign. Someone else argues it's imperial. A third person says no one will notice once it's buried in almonds and pomegranate syrup. The conversation ends when the head cook threatens to demote them all to mango seed deshelling. Through it all, you stay mostly where you began. On the floor, amidst a pile of skins and slippery stalks, blinking through tears, slicing steadily, sweat turning into a second tunic. At some point, a monkey leaps down from the rafters, steals a fig, and vanishes. You are told not to react. Monkeys apparently have seniority toward the end of the day, or what you think is the end, based on the rising sense of collective despair. The head cook claps his hands and calls for quiet. It's rare. Even the fires seem to hush. He announces tomorrow's menu for the emperor's breakfast: spiced parathas, cream-soaked apricots, saffron milk, mutton kebabs, and something involving fermented mango paste. You mentally prepare to not eat any of it. As the crowd disperses, you stand slowly. Your knees protest, your shoulders throb. You smell like you were slow cooked in shallots. And yet, somewhere in this hazy agony, there's a strange pride. You made it through day 1. You didn't pass out. You didn't slice off a finger. And you might, just might, get promoted to garlic boy. The next morning arrives without ceremony. No rooster, no bell. Just a slap on your ankle from Yusuf, who mumbles, "You're blocking the wheat." You sit up on your sleeping mat. Well, technically, it's just an old burlap sack that smells like cardamom and regret. And discover that the kitchen never actually slept. The fires are still burning, though a little lower now. The bread ovens are already glowing again, like patient volcanoes. Someone is singing near the pickle jars. You blink hard. You've barely rested, and somehow you're already late. The onions are back, a new crate, larger, angrier. But this time, you're not alone. A new recruit has appeared. He's younger than you, and already looks like he regrets everything. You nod in solidarity. His nod says, "Why is everything wet?" Yusuf wanders over while chewing something unidentifiable. "Promotion," he says, pointing to a larger stone slab near the center of the room. "You're on the prep floor now." You stare at it. It's not exactly glamorous, just a higher platform with better visibility and more heat, but you accept the honor with the solemnity of a man being led to the gallows. You step up. Your new task is watching and learning the kitchen hierarchy. Not official titles, of course, those are whispered and vague, but roles shaped by status, bloodlines, and how good you are at not burning anything. At the top, beyond mortal comprehension, is the Mir Bakawal, the Grand Steward of the kitchen. He rarely appears, but when he does, everyone looks busy. His turban is so large you assume it has its own weather system. Below him are tiers of head cooks. One for meat, one for sweets, one for rice, one just for dairy. Beneath them are assistants, apprentices, firekeepers, spice pounders, oil strainers, and of course, you. Yusuf explains it all like someone who's never left, but desperately wants to. The guy with the red sash? He makes kebabs, won't touch vegetables, thinks garlic is beneath him. That woman near the clay pots? She's the only one allowed to handle rose water. She slapped a prince once. Legend. Every dish has a custodian. Every ingredient, a guard. The turmeric isn't just ground. It's weighed by a man who speaks only in whispers and wears gloves made of muslin. The ghee is kept in locked clay jars, and the man with the key has 6 toes. No one knows his name. Remember the onions? They're still here, but now you only slice them in decorative patterns, thin rings, petal shapes, the kind of artistry you'd expect on a royal feast or a wedding plate. The catch? You can't taste a single thing you make. Nothing. Not a lick, not a crumb. Not even a whiff is safe if you linger too long. The punishment is simple: back to fire duty. So you inhale quickly, subtly. You pretend to yawn near the pickle urn. You pass by the kebab table with exaggerated slowness. You hope that counts as flavor education. Midway through the day, an actual crisis erupts over a misplaced jar of fenugreek. Voices rise, fingers point. Someone blames the astrologers. Someone else blames a ghost. A third person suggests the emperor's second cousin used it for beard oil. The matter is resolved only when a backup jar is found behind the lime brine. But the tension lingers like the smell of burnt cumin. Meanwhile, your knees ache from squatting. Your wrists are red from washing. You've cut more vegetables than you've seen in your entire modern life. And your sense of smell is now permanently tuned to pick out 5 types of clarified butter blindfolded. Back on the prep floor, you're invited to observe the imperial spice register. Yes, it's a real thing. An actual scroll, guarded by 2 scribes, and sealed with wax, listing which spice combinations are permitted for which rank of royal. Clove and cinnamon? Reserved for uncles. Cardamom and mace? That's strictly for the emperor. Anyone using both in the same stew without permission is either very bold or very dead. Historians still argue whether this register was meant to preserve harmony or just showcase petty flexing. Either way, the rules are followed with terrifying precision. Your favorite moment of the day comes when a cat, clearly not a staff member, slinks past the sweet room, ignores a pile of pistachios, and settles regally atop the rice sack. No one moves it. The cat, you assume, has more rank than you. You try not to notice that you still haven't eaten. Later in the day, you're introduced to a new section of the kitchen. The pani room, a wet, dim, perpetually misty corner where flavored waters, syrups, and cool drinks are prepared. A man in jade robes drops rose petals into a copper jug. Another stirs crushed sugarcane with something that might be basil or possibly moss. You're tasked with fetching cold clay cups from the rinse pool, which turns out to be mosquito paradise. You get bit exactly 14 times. The 12th bite makes your elbow throb like it's developing its own pulse. You say nothing. Remember that comment Yusuf made about promotion? Turns out moving up in the kitchen doesn't mean more food. It means more pressure, more heat, more eyes watching. Today you are corrected twice. Once for over-trimming, a radish once for walking too close to the duck stew. The duck stew, apparently, has its own protocol. Somewhere nearby, a butcher chants a poem while slicing goat. It's oddly beautiful. You can't hear all the words, but you catch something about the last breath of the clove and onion moons in winter broth. Later, Yusuf tells you this guy once trained in poetry before becoming a meat guy. Happens more than you'd think. And then, just as you're starting to think your legs might detach from your body in protest, the head cook calls for silence. Tomorrow, he says, the emperor will be observing breakfast preparation. No one breathes. This is not a normal event. The emperor, wrapped in layers of silk and expectation, rarely ventures into the kitchen. He prefers the outcomes, not the origins. But when he watches, everything must shine. Every pot, every coal, every toe. You are not allowed to look directly at him, of course. But your hands must be perfect. Your posture, reverent. Your face, composed. Despite the fact that by tomorrow morning, you'll probably be sweating through your soul. As night nears, you're told you may sleep early, just after midnight. A luxury. You wash your hands in a basin filled with slightly cloudy water and find your burlap sack again. Your body aches. Your fingers throb. You smell like tamarind and smoke. And yet, there's that familiar masochistic flicker of pride. You moved up a level. You saw the spice scroll. You didn't drop a single clay bowl. You're still here. And for now, that's enough. Your eyelids barely had time to crust over before someone kicks you softly and mutters, "Wake up, onion royalty." It's Yusuf again, holding 2 clay cups of some bitter green tea that tastes faintly of boiled leaves and exhaustion. You drink it anyway. It's still dark out, though in the kitchen that doesn't matter. Light here isn't about sun, it's fire, lamp, reflection off copper pots. The bawarchi khana exists in its own orbit, one that doesn't bother to align with the outside world. Today, you are not chopping, not peeling, not even slicing. You have been entrusted with a singular honor, standing very still beside the rice station. Technically, you're there to assist with measuring, but really, you're human scenery. The emperor is expected to make his grand entrance sometime after dawn, and every detail must be picturesque. Your job is to appear competent and humble, ideally without sweating too visibly. The head rice cook is a wiry old man who only speaks in questions. "Is that the right sack?" he asks without looking. "Are your hands clean enough for the grain that touches God's servant? Do you know the difference between silver rice and moon rice?" You nod, as if you do. You don't. The rice itself is absurdly beautiful. Long-grained basmati, pale as bleached silk, and infused with saffron water that's been steeping since last night. As steam rises from the cauldron, it smells like a dream of food, not actual food. No garlic, no oil, just floral golden air. It's for the emperor's breakfast, and it will be served in a shallow jade bowl so polished you can see your own panic in it. And then, a hush. It's like someone turned down the volume on reality. The crackle of fire dulls. The spoon clangs, falls silent. Even the monkeys in the rafters freeze. The emperor has arrived. You don't see him exactly. You're facing forward, hands behind your back, just as instructed. But you feel him. Or more accurately, you feel everyone else reacting to him, like a ripple of reverence and fear moving through the kitchen. He walks slowly. That much is clear. There's a faint jingling, not from jewelry, but from the ankles of his personal fan-bearers. A gentle murmur follows his footsteps, something between prayer and PR. Someone near you drops a clove. You hear the dull pat as it hits the floor. The silence after is so sharp you wonder if time itself paused to glare. The emperor does not speak. He walks past the rice, pauses, breathes, then continues. You exhale. Yusuf later tells you that the emperor never actually eats these meals on time. He snacks in private, he shrugs. But he likes the performance, the idea that all this exists just for him. You can't decide if that's comforting or terrifying. Still, now that the observation is over, the kitchen erupts into motion. Orders are barked. Spoons are retrieved. You are handed a copper bowl filled with sliced onions soaked in vinegar and rose water. Deliver it to the meat tent, someone says. You didn't know there was a meat tent. But you go. The tent is a less tent and more pavilion propped up in a courtyard just off the kitchen complex. Inside, you're hit with a wall of smells. Roasted lamb, crushed coriander, beef stewed in yogurt, goat sizzling on iron plates, and smoke. So much smoke it clings to your ears. You deliver your bowl, nod politely, and try to escape without inhaling a lungful of ghee fog. But as you turn to leave, a voice calls out, "You, stay, we need hands." And just like that, you are now part of the meat prep team. You don't cut anything yet. First, you're told to observe. That means watching a man marinate a side of lamb using only his elbows and a cloth, soaked in spice oil. Another hammers thin steaks into the shape of palm leaves. A third slices tongue into strips so fine they look like ribbons. You're not sure whether you're impressed or mildly horrified. And then there's the goat, or, to be precise, there are many goats. A small procession is underway. Some are still alive, wide-eyed and confused. Others, less so. The slaughter is done quietly, swiftly, in accordance with strict rules. The butcher mutters a prayer you don't understand and moves with precision. No theatrics, just ritual. You help carry the meat. It's heavier than you expected, warm in a way that reminds you how recently it was walking. You don't flinch, but your face goes a little pale. You'll get used to it, someone says, or you'll leave. You nod, which seems to be your only response to everything now. Later, you're handed a skewer, long, iron, slightly bent. Your job is to slide pieces of marinated meat onto it in a very specific order. Fat meat, spice. There's an actual rhythm to it. Too much meat in a row and it dries. Too much fat and it drips into the coals too fast. Historians still argue whether this technique came from Persia or was perfected in Hindustan. Either way, your skewer looks slightly off, and you're told to start over. Remember your old job? The onion peeling? Suddenly it seems quaint. A goat's head is being slow roasted nearby, and someone insists it's the emperor's favorite. You hope it's for decoration. It's not. The meat is cooked on large flat stones over coal pits. Flames lick the sides. Men with bare arms flip slabs of meat with curved blades. The air is thick with salt, char, and something sweet, like molasses or date syrup. A taste you can smell but not have. You wipe your forehead with your sleeve and feel the crunch of dried ghee near your temple. Classy. As the sun rises higher, though again you only know that from the increasing sweat, orders shift. The meat must be sent to the central hall. You help carry trays, careful not to spill, careful not to look directly at the palace guards flanking. The path. They look like statues but somehow angrier. You pass by the sweetmakers, still a mystery, still silent. They do not acknowledge you, perhaps because they've tasted what you haven't. By midday, you're allowed a break. Not a nap, not even a seat, but a corner where you're not technically working. Yusuf finds you and tosses you a date. You catch it. It's sticky and sun-warmed. You eat it slowly, savoring the only actual bite of food you've had all day. He sits beside you and sighs. They say meat day used to be twice a week. Now it's daily. Emperor's getting older. Wants a comfort food. You nod, too tired to form words. A monkey drops a fig nearby. You take it as a gift. You eat that too. Your shift ends not with a bell, but with someone shouting, "Enough!" Possibly at you, possibly at the goat head currently being turned into stew. You drag yourself back to the rinse basin, wash your hands, and stare at your reflection in the copper. Your face is smeared with spice. Your arms ache. Your nose is permanently tinged with coriander. But you survived meat day. Just don't expect a vegetarian option tomorrow. Dawn smells like milk and ambition. You wake before anyone kicks you this time, partly because your back refuses to sleep on burlap anymore, and partly because the air is already vibrating with tension. Today is breakfast day. Not just any breakfast, the emperor's breakfast, as in the one that will be carried in on gold trays, served by men in velvet slippers, and described later in poetry. You are not cooking for the emperor. Let's be clear about that. You're cooking around the emperor, for the people who feed him, for the cousins and ministers who might glance at his plate and then copy whatever he eats. You're in the support cast, the scaffolding of royal hunger, a breakfast extra. Still, the stakes are weirdly high. You're assigned to the almond preparation team, which sounds impressive until you realize your job is to peel hundreds, no thousands, of blanched almonds until they're smooth and skinless, like baby birds. You sit cross-legged next to a steaming vat of hot water and start, one by one. Pinch, slide, flick. Pinch, slide, flick. The almonds squeak when they slip out. It's vaguely disgusting and vaguely satisfying, but mostly slow. Yusuf strolls past and offers this insight. If your fingers don't wrinkle like old mangoes, you're not doing it right. The tray in front of you fills painfully slowly. And just when you think you're halfway done, someone tips in another bucket. You say nothing, because saying anything would mean crying. And you need those tears later, for the saffron grinding. Meanwhile, the main prep floor is a quiet battlefield. The paratha squad is hard at work layering dough with clarified butter and folding it like origami. They whisper about the right crispness, flaky but not loud. Remember, the emperor likes things elegant, not crunchy. Nearby, the milk boys are stirring massive pots of cream and rose water until the scent becomes almost unbearable. If you breathe too deeply, you hallucinate perfume. A senior cook demonstrates how to drizzle honey in a perfect spiral over yogurt. It's an actual skill. You try it once. Your spiral looks like a crushed spider. The fruit slicers are working in unison, carving melons into petals, dates into tiny fish, and mangoes into something resembling divine geometry. You are not allowed near the mangoes. That's a specialist role. People whisper about the mango carver like he's both artist and threat. One wrong cut, and you're back to onions for life. A minor prince wanders through the kitchen, yawning, in silk. You freeze. He's barely 12, already bored of everything. He stops to taste a piece of candied fig, frowns, leaves. A full fig platter is immediately discarded. You mentally salute the cook responsible and add a new fear to your collection. Noble child critique. You're called away from almonds and reassigned to the egg custard station. Your task? Stir. Gently. Constantly. Do not let the mixture bubble. Do not let it split. Do not ask questions. You hover over the copper pot and begin. The custard is thick, golden, and sweetened with something syrupy that glues your fingers together. Your arms ache from the slow circles. Your brain drifts. Remember, that time you thought this was a relaxing kitchen job? Hilarious. Someone walks by with a tray of boiled eggs dipped in silver leaf. They sparkle like treasure. One slips. Everyone gasps. The egg bounces, lands, does not crack. The kitchen exhales as one. A miracle. In the far corner, the bread team is stacking piping hot flatbreads in precise spirals, each one dabbed with gold leaf or saffron threads. They'll be carried out on a tray so heavy it requires 2 men and a strong prayer. You glance up, accidentally make eye contact with the tea master, a terrifyingly serene man who brews no less than 5 kinds of tea, all of which must be the right color. Too dark, and it's for mourning. Too light, and it's for mockery. He glares at you like your mere presence threatens the tea's balance. You look away. At last, someone yells the dreaded words. Tasting begins. Here's the catch. You don't get to taste. The tasters are assigned. You are not one of them. A man with an official-looking feather in his turban steps forward, dips a single finger into your custard, and lets it drip onto his tongue. He says nothing. Moves on. You'll never know what he thought. You just pray you don't end up on some secret list of kitchen failures. Historians still argue whether Mughal meals were ever truly for nourishment, or if they were just edible theater. Judging from today's performance, the answer is yes, but also no. Yusuf passes by and whispers, I heard the emperor once refused to eat because the melon looked too smug. You don't ask what that means. You believe it instantly. At last, the dishes are arranged on the ceremonial trays. Trays of spiced paratha, bowls of yogurt scented with cardamom, platters of mango slices fanned like peacock feathers, milk thickened into what might legally qualify as cheese, almonds ground into paste and rolled into pearls, sweet rice perfumed with rose, and at the center a tall golden bowl of saffron custard, yours, or at least the one you stirred like your life depended on it, which it might. You are ordered to step aside as the serving procession begins. A small army of waiters, guards, eunuchs, and fan-bearers marches out in ceremonial order. Behind them, the food. Behind that, a man who just holds the emperor's napkin. You didn't even know that was a full-time job. Once they're gone, the kitchen exhales. Not fully, but enough. You slump against a wall, tired and slightly custard-scented. Now comes the part you hate most. The scrap round. The rejected trays. The leftovers. The unchosen parathas. The mangoes that were too symmetrical. The yogurt that trembled in the wrong direction. You're not allowed to eat these either. Not until the dogs and monkeys have been offered first. Kitchen superstition. So you watch a monkey eat a better breakfast than you ever have. Remember that fig from yesterday? It's still your high point. After cleanup begins, you're given a job no one wants, scrubbing saffron stains from copper trays. It doesn't work. Nothing removes saffron. It's eternal. It seeps into your pores, your nails, your soul. You will smell like imperial dessert until the next monsoon. You're finally dismissed just after midday. Rest well, someone says. You almost laugh. Back in your burlap corner, you lie down and close your eyes. Your fingers twitch as if still stirring. You dream of smug melons and silver leaf eggs. The air today is heavier than usual, dense with soot and the promise of sweat. Before your eyes even open, you know exactly where you are. Pressed against your scratchy sleeping mat, limbs sticky from heat, nostrils filled with the faint perfume of old rice and slightly burnt ghee. There's no need for an alarm. The bawar chikana wakes you with a low growl, the same kind of rumble you imagine a dragon would make before exhaling a plume of coal smoke. Except here, the dragon is real. It's the furnace room, and today, that dragon belongs to you. You're assigned to coal duty. This is not a promotion. This is punishment, or possibly a rite of passage. No one tells you why, just that your name was on a scrap of parchment, and now you belong to the flames. Yusuf meets you at the threshold with a grimace. Try not to fall in, he says, handing you a damp rag for your face. It doesn't help. Nothing helps. The furnace room is the hottest, darkest and least forgiving part of the Mughal kitchen complex. Picture a giant cavern filled with open mouths of fire, each one roaring with eternal appetite. Here, tandoors glow like miniature suns, and coal piles the size of camels loom in the corners, quietly smoldering even when untouched. The ceiling is so stained with soot it looks like a burned parchment scroll, and the only ventilation comes from 3 vents the size of rabbit holes. You're expected to keep the fires fed, not too much, not too little, just enough. The logic is arcane. If the coal is too dry, the flames bite. Too wet, and you get smoke instead of heat. It's a dance, a coal ballet, and you are very much the clumsy new understudy. You lift a basket, filled with lumps of black rock. It's heavier than it looks. Each step sends ash swirling around your ankles. Your sandals are instantly filthy. You drop the coal into the tandoor mouth, and it hisses at you like you've just insulted its lineage. The Agniwalas, the firemen, don't speak much. They are shirtless, calloused, and seemingly immune to temperature. One of them lifts a pot from the coals with his bare hands and gives you a look that says, "We are not the same. There's a rhythm here. Shovel, feed, fan, retreat." You do your best to imitate it, but by midday, your hands are black, your lungs scratchy, and your eyebrows feel slightly crisped. You try to wipe your face and end up looking like someone painted a mustache on you with coal dust. Meanwhile, your phone is still dead. Not that it would matter. Your fingers are too blistered to scroll. Someone opens a hatch in the far wall, revealing a side chamber where naan is being baked. This is where your work connects to the bread. A giant angry man with forearms like tree trunks is slapping dough into the tandoor walls and yanking it out with metal hooks. Each naan is perfect, bubbled just right, lightly charred. You hand him the coal when he nods. That's your job now. Silent delivery mule for a carb artist. He doesn't say thank you, but he doesn't throw hot metal at you either. You take this as approval. A minor disaster erupts when someone overloads the tandoor and causes a small coal explosion. No one's injured, but there's a lot of yelling and a flying ladle. You duck instinctively. Yusuf later tells you that the ladle has a name, Kalma, and it has drawn more blood than the emperor's war campaigns. You believe him. Your break, such as it is, consists of sitting near a corner and sipping tepid water from a dented tin cup. Your throat tastes like ash. Your hands are a catalog of blisters. And yet, you feel a strange sense of belonging. You've seen the beating heart of the kitchen. It's fire. Always fire. Around midday, the firemaster inspects your work. He pokes at your coals with a long iron rod, sniffs the air and grunts. "You didn't ruin it," he says, which, in this room, is basically a standing ovation. You're temporarily reassigned to smoke management. Yes, that's a real thing. The smoke has to be guided through the vents, or else it backs up into the suite rooms, and no one wants saffron cakes that taste like goat barbecue. You stand by a vent with a large fan made of woven reeds, and wave it at precise intervals. Your timing must align with the flow of breath from the tandoor. You fail twice. On the third try, the smoke finally curls outward in a beautiful arc. The firemaster nods once. That nod fuels you for the rest of the shift. Historians still argue whether the Mughal kitchen's fire system was engineered brilliance or just managed chaos. After 5 hours next to it, you're convinced it's both. Toward late afternoon, you assist in hauling out massive urns of boiled meat stock. These are kept warm by burying them in embers, and you're warned not to tip them, or the meat gods will be displeased. You're not sure if that's a metaphor. You don't ask. As dusk rolls in, someone brings in logs of sandalwood. Special order. The emperor wants his rice lightly perfumed, not from the ingredients, but from the smoke. A special fire is lit, and the scent begins to wind through the rafters like memory. You inhale cautiously. It's the first pleasant smell all day. You finally exit the furnace room in the early evening. Every part of you aches. You're streaked in ash, crusted with soot, and slightly glowing with residual heat. As you walk through the open courtyard, someone jokes that you look like a charcoal statue of yourself. You laugh. A little. Then cough. Back. In the prep area, the others take one look at you and step aside. Your aura is now part mythical, part terrifying. The man who fed the flame and returned. You eat a stolen grape. It tastes like water, dust, and revenge. You are awakened not by a human hand, but by the sound of low, wet thuds echoing through the courtyard. It's a rhythm both primal and deliberate, like someone squashing melons with surgical precision. You roll over, slowly, painfully, and the memory comes rushing back. Today is meat day. You don't ask who decided this. It's not written on any calendar. Meat day simply is, like the monsoon or heartbreak. It descends on the kitchen without warning, bringing with it a parade of bleating goats, red-faced butchers, and buckets that slosh in ominous ways. Yusuf finds you before you can feign a twisted ankle. "Congratulations," he says dryly. "You've been promoted to elbow duty." You stare. "Elbow duty," he repeats, "for the mutton marinade." He gestures toward a low stone basin filled with yogurt, saffron, crushed garlic, ginger, coriander, and what looks like the tears of 1,000 overworked cooks. Your job is to stir it. With your arm. Your actual arm. "No spoon?" you ask. Yusuf shakes his head. "Too aggressive, too metallic. The marinade has to be caressed." So there you are, elbow deep in spice, slowly churning meat and yogurt with all the grace of a royal masseuse. The mixture is lukewarm, slick, fragrant, also weirdly fizzy. You're told that means it's alive. The basin beside you contains goat chunks so tender they collapse under their own weight. Someone chants a prayer while laying in the bones. A boy with a ladle dribbles rosewater around the rim in spirals. It's not just cooking, it's ritual. Even the flies seem reverent. You're given breaks. Not to rest, but to help with gut removal. A job no one volunteers for. You're handed a dullish blade and pointed toward a goat carcass that's still twitching slightly. "Don't think of it as an animal," someone says. "Think of it as a very complicated onion." You try. It doesn't help. The butcher overseeing. You is named Ali. He wears an apron so stiff with dried blood it could stand on its own. "You go slow," he instructs. "The gallbladder is tricky. One slice too deep and it leaks. Then the meat's ruined. Then you're ruined." You nod, and your hands tremble. Ali slices with fluid, almost tender movements. You attempt the same and immediately puncture something questionable. There's a hiss, a smell. Everyone turns. You consider fleeing the empire. But Ali just laughs. "Your first bile bloom," he says, and hands you a rag. You spend the next hour washing goat intestines in a shallow stone basin with a stream of running water, and your own mounting regret. The intestines are slippery and seem to actively resist. You, like wet rope, possessed by a minor demon. Every time you rinse one, it curls back into a knot. By the fifth one, you stop fighting and simply accept that you now exist in service of digestive tubing. Meanwhile, your clothes are damp. Again, not with sweat this time, but with a disturbing cocktail of fluids you've mentally labeled goat-based. You smell like a protein nightmare. No one stands too close. Not even Yusuf. Remember when you thought onion duty was the worst job? You were young. You were naive. Outside, the meat is skewered onto swords that are then placed into deep stone, trenches where coals smolder patiently. The kebab masters, yes, that's a title, stand guard over each trench with the intensity of a mother bird. They fan, they turn, they mutter critiques at the fire. Occasionally, one of them sprinkles rose petals into the coals, not for flavor, but for aroma. Historians still argue whether the Mughals ate their power or simply performed it. Watching, these kebabs, You suspect the answer is both. A young boy runs past you with a tray of raw lamb marinated in papaya paste. You stop him to ask why papaya. He shrugs. It makes the meat forget its muscle. You don't know if that's poetry or biology. Eventually, you're promoted to skewer rotation. This involves squatting beside a pit and slowly turning a sword-sized spit of beef with such precision that the outside chars, but the inside whispers moist secrets. You drop one, just once. It lands partially in ash. You try to rescue it. A cook screams, "That was for the emperor's uncle's singing." Instructor, you offer a heartfelt apology to both the meat and the imaginary voice coach. Your knees are covered in soot. Your wrists ache. You are dangerously close to becoming part of the fire. But still, you keep turning. Later, you're pulled aside to assist in a side dish. Spiced liver stew, served in tiny silver bowls lined with gold leaf. Your job is to slice the livers into exact cubes, no larger than a hazelnut. Too big and it's vulgar. Too small, and it's disrespectful. There is no forgiveness for improper liver dimensions. Ali inspects your work and grunts. Passable. You feel like you've received a knighthood. In the corner of the tent, someone begins assembling the royal tasting platter. It includes bits from every meat dish. A kebab here, a lamb chop there, a dab of spicy minced goat served in a tiny shell. It's laid out like a battlefield map, and you're warned not to even look at it too long, or it might be considered presumptuous. You retreat to the rinsing station, where you wash your hands for what feels like an hour. The scent of marinated lamb refuses to leave your skin. It clings. It accuses. By evening, you are allowed a single bowl of stew. Not from the royal table, don't be absurd, but from the worker's pot. A massive kettle of meat scraps, bones, and overcooked rice that somehow tastes like survival. You eat it under a tree with Yusuf, who chews thoughtfully and says, "We're the only people in the empire who smell like this." You nod. Not proudly, just honestly. Remember your first night? When you thought the worst thing was onion fumes? Now you wear animal remnants like a cloak. Still, as the stars blink open overhead and the last coals are raked into gentle ash, you realize something strange. You don't hate it. Not exactly. You're tired. You're sticky. You may never be clean again, but you made it through meat day. You're woken by a sneeze. Not yours. Yusuf's. A mighty, echoing explosion of breath that rattles the clay bowls stacked nearby. He sneezes again, and again, until it sounds like a one-man percussion section. You sit up groggily, wiping crusted turmeric from your cheek. "It's spice day," he says between sneezes. "Hold your breath." You don't. You inhale. You regret everything. The air burns. That's the only way to describe it. You've walked into pepper-laced fog, a gentle but invasive mist of powdered fire. Somewhere nearby, cloves are being roasted, cardamom is being cracked, and nutmeg is being grated so furiously it could qualify as violence. The masala wallas are in full swing. This is not a kitchen anymore. It's a spice mine, a temple of sneezes. You feel it in your nose, your throat, your eyes, your teeth. It is everywhere, like glitter but meaner. You are assigned to the cinnamon station, which sounds pleasant, even festive, until you see the logs. Whole sticks, longer than your arm, imported overland, wrapped in cloth and guarded like treasure. Your job? Shave them. Not with a tool. With a knife, steady hands, and the patience of a saint. Each curl must be fine enough to dissolve in milk, yet large enough to be recognized as cinnamon and not, say, mouse shavings. You begin. After the third log, your fingers are permanently bent. After the fifth, your arms go numb. You sneeze 7 times and are told that's actually impressive. Some have fainted. Yusuf swings by with a basket of cloves. He dumps them next to you with a sigh. Careful. Too many cloves and people get nervous. Nervous? You ask. Cloves are warming. Excess makes you aggressive. Bad for palace politics. You nod. Sure, that tracks. Too much spice, and suddenly you're plotting to dethrone your uncle. There's a low hum from the saffron team, tucked in a side chamber like an ancient cult. You're not allowed in. No one under 3 years seniority is. They sit cross-legged, heads bowed, quietly plucking threads from fragile saffron stigmas. The smell is intoxicating, floral, dusty, like honey and iron. They weigh each batch, on gold scales, whispering as they go. You catch one phrase. This was picked before sunrise. You're not sure if that's superstition or protocol. Historians still argue whether Mughal spice discipline was an extension of religious piety, court aesthetics, or plain old snobbery. In your experience, it's all three plus a healthy dose of paranoia. Your next task is grinding nutmeg using a stone bowl and a heavy pestle. You quickly learn that nutmeg is both hard and uncooperative. It chips, it flies, it gets into places no spice should reach. At one point, a piece lodges in your ear. Yusuf helps retrieve it using tweezers meant for clove stems. You don't speak for 10 minutes. The pepper crew works in a roped-off section. Their product is considered volatile. The black peppercorns are roasted, cracked, and passed through multiple sieves. You peek in and see a man coughing so hard he leans against the wall like a collapsing chimney. A helper fans him with a banana leaf. You back away. By midday, the spice vault is opened. You didn't know there was a vault, but of course there is. It's a thick wooden chest bound with iron straps and a lock the size of a baby goat. Inside are sachets of rare imports: Ethiopian long pepper, Iranian dried limes, Malabar mace, and something labeled only sun tears. You are allowed to carry a pouch under supervision. It smells like citrus and divinity. You blink through the haze and spot a man tasting a line of powdered fenugreek like he's sampling fine wine. Too bitter, he declares, and everyone groans like this means starting over. Lunch doesn't exist today. Not for you. You chew on a clove stem and pretend it's food. It's not. It's bitter, and your tongue feels like it's being lectured. Someone collapses from heat and is revived with chilled rose water. Not by drinking it, by sniffing it. You volunteer for this later, just for the experience. It works. By late afternoon, your face has developed a permanent squint. Your palms are orange. Your breath smells like spice rack soup, and your clothing is now technically edible. You're told to assist with the spice matrix, a literal chart that lists which spices are cooling, which are heating, which are aphrodisiacs, and which are considered spiritually neutral. There are annotations. One spice is marked, leads to marital confusion. Another, inhibits dreams. A third, wakes the stomach spirits. You ask no questions. Remember your last clean breath? Neither do you. Your lungs are now at least 3% cumin. A small mouse darts through the storage room and sneezes. Everyone applauds. As evening settles, you help label the final blends. Each mix is named after a mood or a body part. Lustful stomach, sleepy navel, joyful bone. You try not to laugh. You fail. Someone hits you gently with a pepper pouch. At the end of the day, you are given a small sachet of leftover garam masala. For luck, they say. You tie it to your belt like a charm. It spills instantly. Back in your sleeping corner, Yusuf lies down beside you with a sigh. I hate Spice Day, he mutters. You nod. You are Spice now. The kitchen's mood has shifted. It hums differently today, lighter on the shouting, heavier on the tension. That strange combination can only mean one thing. The harem's breakfast. Order just arrived. Yusuf confirms it. holding up a parchment that's already been smudged by rose oil. 49 dishes, 32 of them different, all need to arrive warm, at the same time. You blink. He grins. Welcome to the Zen of chaos. The harem kitchen isn't physically far. It's in the eastern wing, past the lotus fountain, and under the gallery of silk drapes, but it might as well be a parallel dimension. The rules are different here. The politics are tighter. The mistakes are less forgivable. The food must be not only delicious, but poetic. Not only nourishing, but flattering. The Mughal emperor's wives, concubines, and female courtiers do not simply eat, they experience. Which means you, humble prep assistant, are now entering the most demanding corner of the empire. Your first job? Lentils. You're handed a sack of red lentils, a wooden bowl, and told that wife number 5 likes hers with tamarind. Wife number 9 detests tamarind. And wife number 2 once accused a bowl of lentils of looking melancholy. There is no solution here, only risk management. You soak, stir, and ladle, checking the consistency like it holds the fate of your lineage. The head harem cook, a woman named Madame Parveen, glides past you. She's small, ancient, and moves like she invented steam. Her eyes skim your pot. Too sad, she says, and walks away. You don't ask what she means. You add more cumin. It somehow feels better. Next, you're pulled into the dessert chamber. It's a palace within a palace. Everywhere you turn, something is sugared, braided, or soaked in syrup. Here, the confections are as complicated as court politics. Sweets shaped like birds. Sweets shaped like flowers. Sweets made from milk boiled so long it becomes cheese, then something else entirely. You're asked to roll gulab jamun by hand. Not too soft, not too large. Each one must be smooth enough to reflect candlelight. Yours look like suspicious potatoes. You are reassigned to fennel sorting. You sift fennel seeds until your wrists ache. Nearby, another cook is painting rose petals with edible gold. Another is cutting dates into perfect squares using what looks suspiciously like a jeweler's blade. Remember that time you sliced goat intestines? Somehow this is worse. A loud argument erupts over whether wife number 11 prefers pistachio barfi with or without crushed almonds. No one can agree. A younger cook suggests doing both and serving them in separate dishes. Madame Parveen narrows her eyes and whispers, "You dare double-plate the Empress's sister-in-law?" The boy is sent to stir syrup for 4 hours as penance. You are promoted to grape peeler. Yes, that's real. You peel grapes, tiny, green, and slippery as regret. The grapes must be flawless. One speck of skin, and you're demoted to beetroot wrangler. You peel with monk-like focus until your fingers are wrinkled and slightly purple. Meanwhile, the main kitchen works in parallel, preparing flatbreads shaped like lotus flowers, stews, perfumed with saffron, and rice sculpted into miniature hills. Timing is everything. The food must arrive at the same moment, perfectly warm, and without visible fingerprints. There is no room for error. You're summoned to the plating hall, a long, quiet room filled with silver trays and people holding their breath. Each tray is arranged with geometric precision. Pomegranate seeds are scattered like rubies. Mango slices fan outward in golden spirals. Bowls are placed on carved wooden coasters, and even the spoons have tassels. You help carry a tray containing 10 different chutneys. Your hands shake. One wrong movement and your career ends in mint yogurt. Yusuf passes you, balancing 3 trays and smiling like a man who's seen the edge of the world. "Don't trip," he says. You don't reply. You can't breathe. You make the delivery. It's a long walk through silk-curtained corridors and across whispering courtyards. You are not permitted to see the women. The trays are handed over through a curtain. A jeweled hand accepts one bowl, then gestures for you to wait. You wait, A minute passes. Then another. Finally, a voice behind the curtain says, "Too much clove in the chutney. Your ears burn." You try to speak. But Madame Parveen, who appeared out of nowhere, says gently, "It's your learning curve." She replaces the bowl and gives you a fresh one. Try again. You carry it back. Slower this time. Remember how terrifying the fire room was? At least the fire had rules. Here, the rules are written in perfume and remembered grudges. Later, you help prepare the after-breakfast digestives. Betel leaves filled with sweet paste, anise, rose, and slivers of areca nut. Some are shaped into tiny birds. One is folded like a lotus blossom and dusted with edible pearl. You ask who eats these. Yusuf shrugs. Some chew, some just display them. Cleanup is its own ordeal. Every dish must be polished, every tray inspected. Even the spoon cloths. Yes, cloths just for wiping spoons, are laundered in rosewater and laid flat like royal garments. By dusk, you're allowed a leftover fig from the corner of a tray. It's cold, overripe, perfect. You walk back to the main kitchen, dazed and slightly gold-speckled. Yusuf falls into step beside you. "How many wives do you think he really feeds?" you ask. He chuckles. "Probably just one. But we cook for all of them. Just in case." You nod, still chewing your fig. Just in case. You wake in the dark to a finger pressed against your lips. Yusuf leans over, whispering one word. "Midnight." You sit up, bleary and confused. "Midnight what?" He grins, barely visible in the moonlight. "Snack shift. Of course. Because emperors don't only eat when the sun's up. Sometimes, after an evening of poetry recitals, philosophical debates, and imperial chess matches with live pigeons, the Mughal court gets hungry. And when they do, you guessed it, the bawarchikana comes back to life. The midnight kitchen is not like the daytime kitchen. It's quieter, but no less intense. The light comes from small oil lamps that flicker like they're scared. Shadows stretch long across the stone floors. Everything feels vaguely conspiratorial. You're sent to prep sweet breads, soft, buttery, discs infused with cardamom and layered with silver foil. There's no yelling, just hushed coordination, as if the food itself is trying not to wake the emperor. You knead dough in silence, listening to the rhythmic brushing of sugar glaze, the soft pop of ghee sizzling in shallow pans. Next to you, a man carves dates into tiny cubes, then arranges them into secret codes. Yes, really. Some messages are edible, he says. Some are just sweet lies. You don't ask for clarification. You already suspect that the Mughal palace is a cross between a cooking school and a detective novel. Tonight's snack orders include spiced rice pudding, warm almond milk, crisp fried lotus root, and something mysteriously labeled sleep chutney. No one explains it. Everyone respects it. You're reassigned to carry duty. This means you walk through the palace corridors with a tray of food that must remain balanced, warm, and fragrant. But not too fragrant, because strong smells could be considered rude after midnight. The palace is hushed, echoey. Your footsteps feel too loud. You pass a painted mural of a hunting scene and swear the tiger's eyes are following you. Yusuf joins you with a second tray and whispers, "Don't look left, that's the Chamber of Whispers." You look left, there's nothing there, just a door. But somehow, it hums. You continue. At the entrance to the royal quarters, a guard stops. You. Not with words, just a glance. Your tray is inspected. A single piece of lotus root is adjusted. The tray is passed on. You're not permitted to enter the room. You never are. The food disappears behind a curtain, like a magic trick. A low voice says, "Wait." You wait. A minute passes, then, "More cumin next time." You nod solemnly, as if you're the cumin whisperer. You are dismissed. On the way back, Yusuf grabs your arm and pulls you into a side corridor. "Come," he says. "It's pickle hour." What? You follow him to a tiny chamber stacked with dozens of clay jars. This is the Achar Vault, the Mughal pickle library. You didn't know it existed. Each jar contains a different treasure. Mango in mustard oil, green chili in fenugreek, garlic in tamarind, lemon in black salt, and others you can't identify. There's a man there, old, nearly invisible. He hands you a spoon. "Taste one." You hesitate. Then try the garlic tamarind. It's salty, sweet, acidic, and somehow life-affirming. You feel like it just solved 3 emotional issues you didn't know you had. "This one's from Gujarat," the old man mutters. 22 years old. You stare at the jar. "The pickle is older than me," he shrugs. "It's wiser, too." You return to the main kitchen, a changed person. The last order of the night is a small bowl of saffron milk with crushed pistachios and a sprig of mint arranged in the shape of a half moon. No one's quite sure who it's for. A visiting poet, someone says. Or maybe a spy. You help plate it. Historians still argue whether these midnight feasts were acts of indulgence or diplomacy. Based on tonight's events, you lean toward both. Maybe food was the language when politics got sleepy. Your final task is to help reheat the hand towels. Yes, reheat. The emperor's guests must finish their meal by dabbing their fingers on cloths scented with rose, lemon, or sometimes sandalwood. You fold them slowly, reverently, like they might bite. Dawn begins to creep in. You can tell by the way the oil lamps fight for relevance. The kitchen exhales, quietly, gratefully. You sit on the floor beside Yusuf, each of you holding half a cold, sweet bread. "Who was the food for?" you ask. He shrugs. "Could have been the emperor, could have been his parrot." You blink. "Don't ask," he says, mouth full of cardamom. You lean back, your spine humming from the strain, your fingers sticky with syrup. And for the first time, you realize something unspoken. Even in silence, the kitchen speaks. The morning arrives before you're ready, not with a bang, but with a whisper you wish you hadn't heard. "Taster duty," Yusuf murmurs grimly, nudging your shoulder with the kind of pity usually reserved for condemned prisoners. You roll over. "No," you whisper. "No, thank you." He just smiles. "You've been promoted." You sit up. "But I don't want to be promoted." "Too bad. You're now the emperor's taster, not the official taster. That job belongs to a man named Rafi who wears eyeliner and walks like he's never spilled a drop of soup in his life. You're the backup, the warm body with a working tongue, the person who takes the first bite, just in case someone's feeling ambitious about assassinations today. They dress you in a slightly cleaner tunic. Not clean, just less stained. You are told not to smile, not to speak unless spoken to, and above all, not to grimace, even if what you taste is questionable. Apparently, your face is now a diplomatic instrument. The tray in front of you is exquisite. Delicate kebabs wrapped in betel leaves, pilaf dusted with gold. A side of yogurt so thick it holds a spoon upright like a flagpole. You lean in. You sniff. You're not looking for poison, really. You wouldn't know it if it danced a jig. You're just hoping nothing smells like death or betrayal. You take a bite. It's amazing. Fragrant, warm, rich, and somehow gentle at the same time. Your taste buds throw a party and invite everyone. Then you wait. 10 seconds, 20, a minute, you're not dead. So far, so good. You take a sip of rosewater sherbet. Also excellent. You'd cry if it didn't look suspicious. The head taster nods at you once, takes his turn, and gives the signal. The food is cleared for the emperor. You slump against the wall, mentally writing your will. Congratulations, Yusuf whispers later. You're officially useful. That afternoon, you're given another taster assignment. This one for the Emperor's physician. Apparently, even royal doctors get nervous about tamarind-based desserts. You taste a chilled custard with figs, and again, your mouth feels briefly immortal. You are either the most expendable person in the palace or the most secretly envied. Historians still argue whether Mughal tasters were chosen for loyalty, sensitivity, or sheer luck. From your perspective, it's definitely the third. After lunch, you're told to report to the ingredient quarantine chamber. This is where all new food shipments are checked, cataloged, and tasted before they go anywhere. Near the kitchen. You didn't know it existed, but of course it does. The Mughals were obsessive, if not paranoid. You're handed a small bowl of something sticky and purple. It's a new kind of plum, someone says, from Kabul. You taste it. Sweet, tart, slightly numbing. You wait. Still alive. You are beginning to resent your own survival. The other tasters treat you like a new member of a very unlucky club. One man, missing half a pinky, tells you about the time he bit into a mango filled with crushed glass. Turned out to be an accident, he says cheerfully. Still, mango's ruined for me. Another claims he once tasted a lentil dish that gave him hallucinations for 3 days. Beautiful, he sighs. There were birds in my soup. By now you've learned to taste cautiously. A nibble, a sniff, a pause. You avoid dishes with too many colors or anything described as experimental. You do, however, secretly enjoy the job, at least the flavors. Today's menu includes apricot stew, saffron rice with pistachio oil, fried paneer and tamarind glaze, and a syrup-soaked pastry that briefly makes you consider a career in royal seduction. But the pressure is constant. One wrong twitch, one cough, one sigh at the wrong moment, and the entire kitchen freezes. You feel the eyes on you with every bite. That night, you're summoned for an emergency tasting. A feast is being prepared for a foreign ambassador. The emperor demands perfection and plausible deniability, which means you eat everything first. You taste. A spiced melon soup that's either brilliant or mildly fermented. A slow-cooked lamb in rose yogurt that melts in your mouth and your stomach. A barley pudding that smells like nostalgia and feet. You give the nod for all three. You pray you're right. Back in your cot, Yusuf brings you a date stuffed with sugar and says, "You're a legend now," or at least a speed bump between the emperor and death. You chew slowly, thoughtfully. "Do you ever get used to the fear?" you ask. He shrugs. "No, but your palate improves." You lie down, staring at the ceiling, wondering if you'll dream of poisoned grapes or mangoes whispering lies. You taste the world, and it might taste you back. When the drums start beating, you already know what it means. It's festival week, or more precisely, day one of week-long feeding frenzies that blur the line between divine celebration and logistical apocalypse. The emperor has declared a multi-day feast for nobles, commoners, dancers, guards, elephants, and anyone who might be persuaded to admire his generosity in exchange for a bowl of biryani. Yusuf finds you almost immediately. He doesn't smile. No one smiles during festival prep. "You're on rice," he says. You nod. "How much rice?" He hands you a chalkboard. It reads, 1,200 guests, 3 types of biryani, 9 cauldrons per dish. You read it again. "So, all the rice." "Correct," he says, and hands you a ladle the size of a canoe paddle. The rice station has been moved outdoors, not for ambiance, for volume. The cauldrons are vast, blackened iron beasts propped over trenches of coal and firewood. A team of 20 is already at work, layering spices, meats, herbs, and parboiled grains like they're building edible monuments. The smell is overwhelming. Saffron, rosewater, charred onion, goat fat, and anxiety. You are assigned to layering duty, which means alternately adding meat and rice to the massive pots under the direct supervision of the biryani priest. A man so particular he once made someone cry over uneven cilantro distribution. Layer, sprinkle, seal, do not stir, he intones, as if invoking a culinary god. You nod fervently. You shovel in spiced lamb, then rice, then crispy onions, then a handful of dried apricots. Too dry, he says. You add more ghee. Too oily. You remove it. No, now not enough. You contemplate your life choices. The pots are eventually sealed with dough, a thick flour paste wrapped around the lid's edge to trap steam. This process is called dum, and once done, the pots are left to bake silently, like giant wishes buried in coal. Remember when you cooked? For 10 people? Now you're feeding a city. Elsewhere in the courtyard, the vegetarian section is in full swing. Cauldrons of lentils boil like bubbling bogs. Massive woks hold spiced okra, pumpkin stew, eggplant mash. A camel passes by wearing a garland. No, one blinks. You're called to assist with the serving line, but not in the royal banquet. This is for the commoners who've been invited to line up at the outer gates. You join a team hauling biryani in huge brass vessels across cobbled courtyards and down stone stairs. It's backbreaking. The pots are heavy. The ropes bite into your shoulders. By the time you reach the feeding ground, you're soaked in sweat and coated in rice starch. People cheer. Not for you, for the food. But you take what you can get. The food is served on banana leaves. No silver here. But the faces that look back at you are grateful, curious, sometimes awed. An old man kisses his rice. A little boy shouts, "This is emperor rice," and eats with both hands. You smile for the first time all day. Historians still argue whether these mass feedings were political gestures, spiritual offerings, or strategic public relations. Based on the chaos of today, the answer is obviously yes. Back at the main kitchen, chaos continues. The sweets pavilion is in disaster mode. A tray of pistachio halwa has melted. Someone's trying to salvage it with crushed cardamom and hope. Another cook accidentally added salt to the rosewater syrup and is now contemplating self-exile. You're roped into helping stack lattice, round sweets that must be rolled uniformly and pyramid stacked for a visual effect that whispers, "We are," both generous and geometrically gifted. You drop two. One lands in a bowl of tamarind water. No one notices. You fish it out and re-roll. Dinner arrives with drums and fanfare. You assist the water carriers, those mythical figures who distribute saffron-infused drinking water from ornate metal jugs. You carry one so heavy your knees click. A noble stops you. He asks what's in the water. Saffron, rose, holy basil, possibly hope. He laughs. Drinks, waves you off. After the feeding, the cleaning begins. Less glamorous, more sticky. You help scrape biryani crust from the bottom of the pots. This part, known as kurchan, is the crunchy caramelized treasure, often reserved for the emperor. You get a fingertip's worth and nearly weep. Later, Yusuf collapses next to you on a sack of wheat. Only 6 more days. You blink. Of this? Yep. You lie back, arms aching, legs trembling. Your tunic smells like 20 spices and a little bit of goat. But you fed an empire today. You've lost count of the days. Or maybe you've just stopped bothering. The sun rises, the sun sets, and in between, you sweat, stir, serve, and, on truly blessed occasions, sit. Today, your knees crack when you stand up. You don't react. Neither does Yusuf. At this point, joint pain is part of the uniform. Bread team, he says without inflection, tossing a small pouch of flour into your lap. You're in. You blink. Did I ask for this? No one asks for tandoor duty, he replies. It asks for you. You've walked past the bread station dozens of times. It always looked manageable, almost pleasant. A circle of cooks, a pile of dough, and warm flatbreads emerging from glowing clay ovens. Comforting, predictable. You were a fool. The tandoor pit is not a calm corner. It's a blast furnace disguised as a cooking station. The clay ovens are deep, vertical tubes embedded in the ground, lined with smoldering charcoal and rimmed with soot. When you arrive, a man is already fanning the coals with a folded shawl and muttering curses in multiple dialects. Another is slapping raw dough onto a stone counter with a sound that can only be described as urgent. You are given a flattening board, a rolling pin, and a piece of advice. Flour everything, especially your hands, especially your soul. You begin shaping dough. At first you roll too thin, then too thick, then too round, then somehow too square, which no one thought possible. The head bread cook, a woman with ash-streaked arms and a gaze that could shatter glass, sighs. "You're overthinking the wheat," she says. "Relax your elbows." You try. The dough finally rolls correctly, a near circle. You hold it up like a trophy. Someone slaps it out of your hand and slaps it hard against the tandoor wall, using a long mitt. It sticks instantly, bubbling and blistering like it's waking up angry. The heat punches you in the face. Your eyebrows retreat slightly. Then comes the real challenge: retrieving the bread. You're handed a pair of long iron tongs and told, quite seriously, you have 3 seconds before it burns. 4 and it bursts into ego. You lean in. The heat scorches your forearms. Your hand trembles. You catch the edge of the bread and, miracle, pull it out whole. Crisped, golden, and spotted with the signature dark freckles of a successful bake. You are handed another dough ball immediately. The process repeats. Slap, bubble, yank, dodge flame. Your arms ache. Your shoulders crackle. Your face is glowing, with sweat, soot, and spiritual confusion. Lunch orders roll in fast. You switch to stuffed parathas, which require layering dough with spiced vegetables or minced meat before folding and sealing it like a secret letter. The parathas puff up beautifully, but you learn the hard way that they also leak, often dramatically. One ruptures in the tandoor, releasing steam and molten carrot paste. Your wrist gets nicked. You don't scream. You're too tired to scream. Someone hands you a spatula-sized fan to waft the bread smoke away from the cream room. "They're doing chilled rose custard over there," they explain. "Smoke ruins the vibe." You fan dutifully. Mid-shift, you're called away to help with butter rotation. Apparently there's a protocol. Ghee must be ladled into small bowls and topped with a dash of cracked coriander and dried mint. Each bowl is for dipping. Each must be warmed, not melted, not cold. Somewhere in between. Like regret, the butterkeeper tells you. Fluid, but slow. Historians still argue whether Mughal flatbreads were purely functional or acts of culinary grace. From where you're standing, it's both. You've seen bread handed to a prince like a sacred scroll. You've also seen it dropped, kicked, and used as a potholder. Dinner prep arrives. The tandoor is burning brighter now. You're expected to keep up with demand. Yusuf runs orders from 3 sides: saffron rotis, spinach-stuffed parathas, lentil fritters that must be wrapped in flatbread like tiny edible gifts. You burn your finger. Twice. No one reacts. At one point you trip slightly and slap the dough onto the floor. You stare. So does everyone else. Yusuf says quietly, "Make it into crumbs, feed the birds, call it spiritual recycling." You do. By evening, your arms hang limp. You've rolled, slapped, flipped, burned, flipped again, and been told by less than 4 different people that your dough lacks serenity. But something strange happens when you stop moving. You realize you miss it. The repetition. The rhythm, the hypnotic dance of flour, heat, and instinct. You close your eyes and can still feel the shape of the last roti you rolled. It was nearly perfect. It had flour confidence. You are given half of one, still warm, brushed with butter. It tastes like victory, and salt, and survival. Yusuf joins you, chewing slowly. "Tomorrow's mango day," he says. You blink. "That sounds peaceful?" He snorts. "No. That's when we carve 200 mangoes into swans." You lie back against the wall, crumbs on your lap, burns on your wrist, and ghee on your knees. Tomorrow, you fly. You should have known Mango Day wouldn't be gentle. You arrive at the carving station expecting sunlit tranquility. Maybe a few soft jokes, some slicing, some sampling. What you walk into instead is a fruit frenzy. It smells like perfume and panic. Piles of mangoes, hundreds of them, glisten in baskets, on trays, in crates. Some are green, some golden. A few so ripe they collapse under their own weight. All of them destined to become art. Yusuf waves a paring knife at you. Grab a mango, try not to bleed on it. You select one at random. It's warm from the sun, slightly sticky. You cradle it like an egg. Then you're handed your station, a low bench, a shallow bowl of lemon water, and a cloth with exactly 3 clean spots left. That's all you get. Your first instruction? Shape the neck. You starer. The carver beside you, an elderly man with fingers like reeds, demonstrates. He slices off a crescent at the top of the mango, peels downward in one continuous strip, and then somehow coaxes the fruit into a graceful curve. It looks like a swan. You try the same. Yours looks like a melting slug. No one says anything, but someone gently takes it from you and repurposes it into chutney. That sets the tone for the day. You slice, peel, shave, and curse. Silently, of course. You discover mango sap stings if it hits a cut, and mango juice never fully washes out of fabric. Your hands become sticky mitts. Your tunic becomes abstract art. Your dignity? Mangoed. The room is a blur of fruit blades, lemon water, muttered, corrections, and the splat of yet another mango deemed too ugly for the display tray. Some are cut into roses, others into fans. One daring cook is attempting to carve the emperor's face into his fruit. Don't ask, Yusuf says. It's a political thing. Mid-morning, disaster strikes. A tray of perfect mango birds slips. They fall. The silence that follows could have chilled boiling syrup. The carver responsible kneels as if before an altar. No one scolds him. That would be cruel. Instead, Madame Parveen enters silently, picks up one half-crushed bird, and places it into her mouth. She chews slowly, then leaves. The lesson is clear. Accidents must at least taste divine. You're reassigned to the mango station for beverages, where ripe pulp is blended with cardamom, saffron, and yogurt into an imperial lassi. This is less artistic, more practical, but no less risky. The mixture must be cold but not icy, sweet but not cloying, thick enough to coat the side of a silver glass but thin enough to sip without chewing. You whisk like your honor depends on it. You spill some. A drop hits your sandal and hardens into a sugary scar. Later, you help prepare mango pickle, an entirely different beast. Raw mangoes are chopped with salt, mustard seed, turmeric, and chili. The mixture is packed into large clay jars, sealed with oil, and buried partially in the courtyard to age. You ask how long? Months, says the pickling chief. But the Rey, Emperor gets his in days. Don't ask how, you don't. A delivery of imported Alfonso mangoes arrives from the southern coast. They're smaller, sweeter, and escorted by a man who claims they were picked by moonlight. Yusuf leans over. Moonlight mangoes are mostly a tax trick, he whispers. But don't say that out loud. You are allowed to taste one. It's so rich, so honeyed, so decadent that for a moment you forget you're wearing fruit pulp, from your shoulders to your knees. You chew slowly, reverently. It tastes like how silk feels, like applause. But the break is brief. You're sent to help with the mango dessert finale, a layered dish of mango pulp, cream, saffron rice, and toasted almonds served in hollowed-out coconuts. It's absurd. It's beautiful. It's you. You accidentally crack one coconut too hard and shatter it. Yusuf replaces it silently and hands you a mango carved into a teardrop. "You're improving," he says. "This one only looks mildly alarmed." You nod with pride. Evening falls. The trays are assembled. Mangoes in every form. Carved, juiced, pickled, roasted, frozen. Spoons of mango chutney. Bowls of mango rice. Delicate mango milk puddings with floating silver petals. You help carry them into the banquet hall under a sky that smells like rain and overripe dreams. The emperor claps once. The musicians begin to play. As you retreat back to the kitchen, you lick a smear of mango from your wrist and realize you're probably more mango than man now. Sticky, softened, slightly golden. Back in your corner, Yusuf tosses you a pit. "Tomorrow's spice cake day," he says. You lie back, pit under your head, eyes sticky, soul slightly pickled. You may never eat mango again. But at least it was beautiful. You enter the kitchen to find it eerily quiet, not peaceful quiet. Something is wrong. Quiet. No shouting. No clanging. Even the monkeys in the rafters seem to have called in sick. Yusuf greets you with a loaf of stale bread and a scowl. "No pepper," you blink. "What do you mean?" He holds up a small, empty pouch and shakes it like a warning bell. "Shipment's late, black pepper's out, and the emperor has already requested 3 dishes that depend on it." You stare at the kitchen. You've survived meat day, tandoor burns, mango madness, and yet somehow the absence of a single spice has reduced grown men to hushed panic. This is not a drill. This is a spice crisis. The head cook convenes an emergency meeting. He unrolls the spice register like it's a sacred text and places a candle beside it. "We must adapt," he says. "Today, we walk without pepper." Someone gasps. Yusuf leans over. "Last time this happened, a stew was so bland it triggered a poetic feud." The ripple effects begin immediately. First casualty. Goat and pepper, stew. You are ordered to substitute it with cumin and long chili flakes. "It's not the same," the stew master hisses. "It has no mood." You nod solemnly. You don't know what that means, but it's not the day to challenge poetry in soup form. Second casualty. Eggplant fritters with pepper crust. You're sent to fetch ground mustard seeds instead. It smells angry. You apply it hesitantly, as if hoping the fritters won't notice. Meanwhile, rumors swirl. Some say the pepper shipment was stolen by bandits. Others whisper it was diverted to the Deccan front to impress a rival court. One cook insists the pepper went sentient and fled. On its own. No one laughs. You try to lighten the mood. "It's just one spice." Every head turns. A knife clinks. Madame Parveen stares you down. "You have never tasted an imperial egg without pepper, have you?" You apologize, immediately. In the spice room, the pepper jars sit empty, lined with a thin dusting of forgotten glory. The saffron pile looks smug. The cloves are suddenly being rationed. Cinnamon sticks are being guarded like family heirlooms. You're put on flavor redirection duty. Your job is to help rebalance dishes that are now pepperless. This involves tasting lentils, chicken, and stews, then pretending you know what you're doing. You suggest a pinch of coriander for one curry. The cook glares. Coriander is for optimists. By midday, tempers are fraying. A shouting match erupts over cabbage seasoning. Two cooks nearly duel over whether asafoetida can stand in for heat. The compromise is absurd. A blend of dry ginger, carom seeds, and something called emergency garum. The emperor's food must still go out. You assist with the replacement pilaf, usually finished with peppered ghee. Today, it's saffron mint ghee. It smells like a garden and regret. Historians still argue whether Mughal cuisine depended too heavily on black pepper. You now have a firm opinion. Yes. Yes, it did. Yes, it does. Yes, it is the thread holding this imperial tapestry together. In the courtyard, someone is attempting to grind burnt chili into powder to mimic the bite of pepper. You taste it. You weep. Not because it's successful, because your tongue has filed for emancipation. Later, a minor noble demands his usual spiced milk with cracked pepper. You are forced to hand him a cup with cardamom and a prayer. He sips, pauses, says, "Who insulted my cow?" You retreat. Dinner comes. The kitchen holds its collective breath. The emperor requests simple fare tonight. A stew, some rice, a pickled lime. Everyone sighs in relief. But then, with a pinch of pepper, you sprint to Yusuf. "What do we do?" He opens his palm. In it, 5 black peppercorns. "Found them in my boot," he says softly. You laugh so hard you nearly fall over. They are ground, infused in ghee, whispered over the stew like a secret. It's the most ceremonial seasoning you've ever seen, so meal goes out. The emperor eats, the empire survives. You sit with Yusuf in the dark, watching the embers. You share a dried fig. It's pepperless, but you pretend otherwise. "We got through the day," you say. He nods. "Barely. If the turmeric ever runs out, I'm jumping into the tandoor." You don't doubt him. You wake up feeling like something is ending. The air in the Bawarchi Khana is different. Less frantic, less fragrant. There's no fire crackling, no pots clanging, no ladles flying across the room in protest. Just a gentle, muted murmur, like the kitchen itself is tired of being alive. Yusuf hands you a towel. "You get to eat today." You squint at him. "What's the catch?" "No catch. It's your last supper. Not because you're dying, probably, but because your rotation is ending. Kitchen protocol dictates that every worker who survives a full festival cycle, 7 meat days, and a successful pepper crisis gets one meal, properly served, with no onions to peel, no trays to carry, and no sauces to dodge. You sit on a flat stone bench in the back courtyard, beneath a jasmine-draped trellis. There's light. Breeze. A suspicious lack of scolding. A bowl of rice porridge arrives first. Warm, thick, touched with cinnamon and jaggery. It's plain, but you nearly cry into it. Not because it's dramatic, but because you can finally taste something without checking for poison first. Next comes a plate of soft bread, straight from the tandoor, brushed with ghee and speckled with crushed pistachios. You tear it gently, fingers trembling, and dip it into a shallow bowl of lentil stew that tastes like every prayer ever whispered, over a kitchen fire. A small dish of lime pickle sits nearby. You touch just the edge of it with your finger. Salty, sour, a hint of heat. You smile. Then comes the mango custard. No garnish, no gold, just thick mango cream in a clay bowl, the kind you stirred for others 100 times without ever tasting. You eat it slowly, reverently. The head cook walks by, nods, no words, just that nod. Yusuf sits beside you with his own plate. "You've survived," he says. "Mostly intact." You look at your hands, scarred, burned, dusted still with flour. You breathe in deeply. The air smells like tamarind and wood smoke, and something unnameable, something like belonging. You try to talk. He waves you off. You eat. "I talk," he says. Tomorrow, you'll rest. Or you'll go back to your life. Or maybe you'll be called back when the emperor gets curious about cashew bread. Either way, this moment is yours. He peels a grape and offers it to you like a gift. You take it. You're a real kitchen man now, he adds. You've bled. You've blistered. You've cried from onions. You've seen saffron rationed. You've stirred soup that was maybe cursed. You've handled goats. You've stirred things with your elbow. You didn't die. You chew, swallow, nod. I've seen people leave after a day. I've seen princes faint from fire, Yusuf continues. But you stayed. You learned how not to fall into the tandoor. That's rare. The meal ends with a tiny ceramic cup of rosewater milk. Sweet, warm, soothing. You sip it slowly as the sky turns pink. The clatter of kitchen life starts up again around you. Orders shouted, fires stoked. The dance resumes, but you don't move. Not yet. You've earned this stillness. And as the breeze lifts the scent of cardamom through the air, you close your eyes and exhale something you didn't know you were holding. Tonight, you've traveled far, through fire and ash, through mango madness and midnight pickles, through noise and hunger and steam-thick air. You've knelt on stone floors, stirred custard with trembling hands, and survived the quiet fury of a spice shortage. You've seen how food in the Mughal palace was more than sustenance. It was ceremony, power, diplomacy, a conversation between hands and hunger. Every dish carried meaning. Every flavor had a lineage. And every cook, even the lowest onion boy, added something to the story. Your back aches. Your fingers twitch with remembered motion. Folding dough, turning skewers, ladling rice. The sounds of the bawarchi khana still echo faintly in your mind. The hiss of meat on stone, the clang of ladles, the low murmur of prayers over boiling pots. But now, it's time to rest. You've worked hard. You've tasted the empire's pulse. You've learned that even the most lavish meals are built on sweat and routine. That behind every royal dish is 100 quiet hands, moving without glory. Let the heat fade. Let the kitchen quiet. Let the smells become memories. You've eaten. You've endured. And somewhere, in a world without coal fires and cumin haze, you lie beneath clean sheets, grateful for plumbing, for fridges, for silence, but also, perhaps, for the strange, sticky joy of a mango stolen during cleanup. Close. Your eyes. Breathe. Your story can rest now. The ladles are down. The pots are cooling. The emperor is full, and so are you.